I work for the NHS and I work part-time. I've got a disability, which they are aware of, and I've worked there for over 20 years. I've asked to increase my hours, hopefully up to full-time. And I just had an email back, and somebody has left work, so there is a full-time hour going. But they've told me now that because it's over 7.5 hours, I'd have to apply for the job, even though it's exactly the same as what I do now. And then they also changed it the day after to say that, and they said, oh, you can, and then they said, oh no, the job, now they're going to put it out as a secondment, a temporary secondment. But again, they said, and then I can apply for it. And then they said, oh no, actually we need to have a meeting to see whether we can provide you with reasonable adjustments to go full time, even though I haven't required any. I'm
Sorry,
just wondering,
even though you haven't acquired any what?
I haven't requested any.
Required, yes.
Requested, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, Marie, tell me what you do in the NHS, please.
I'm a bed manager.
Right, and when you say you work part-time at the moment, you work part-time at the moment, how many hours is that?
16.
Do you mind me asking, if you don't want to tell me, that's fine, do you mind me asking the nature of your disability?
Yeah, I got muscular dystrophy.
And are you physically able to work full-time? I assume you are, otherwise you wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's start with the reasonable adjustments part, because as you know, any employer is legally required to make reasonable adjustments to help facilitate disabled job applicants or employees back into the workforce. Now, the purpose of making reasonable adjustments is to put you on an even keel with other people. Is the reason why you were working part-time because of your muscular dystrophy, or was it a matter of choice, perhaps for childcare?
It was, yes, for childcare. It started off childcare reasons.
In which case, if the reason that you were doing 16 hours rather than 40 hours a week wasn't because of your disability, I don't think you're going to be able to persuade them that it's a reasonable adjustment to move you on to 40 hours a week, because you're not stopped from doing 40 hours a week because of the disability. Now, I know that you're not asking for it to be done as a reasonable adjustment.
No.
And that's what they're offering. So to an extent, I'm closing down the door that you haven't tried to walk through. But of course, if the hospital was willing to put you up to 40 as a reasonable adjustment because they don't necessarily understand what the law is, lots of employers don't, well, why not walk through the door if they've opened it for you? That's the point I wanted to make there. But moving on to what you asked me, which is, are they allowed to say that you have to apply for the role? Well, yes and no. You have a duty to request contract variations, which includes moving from you have a right to request contract variations, which includes moving from part-time to full-time. But you only have a right to request it. You don't have a right to have it. You have a right to have it considered sensibly by your employer. And if their position is, we want to appoint the best person for the job, which requires open applications, no tribunal is going to say that that's unreasonable, I'm afraid. An employer is entitled to say, we want the best person for the job, so we want an open, competitive interview process. And if they're saying, if they've changed that then, because they're allowed to change their mind, if they change that to, we're going to fill the role by way of secondment, that presumably suggests they've got a specific person in mind to move into that role. And it's very possible, Marie, that they're actually making reasonable adjustments for somebody else who is disabled to go into that role. I don't know, I'm speculating. But I think you're going to be struggling to compel them to move you from part-time to full-time if the reason you're part-time in the first place isn't because of your disability.
Right.
Are you a member of a union, Marie?
Yes.
Which union, do you mind me asking?
Unison.
RCN? Unison. Well, Unison are fabulous. They're a really good union. Has your union rep spoken to you about what to do here?
No, because it's only happened last week, so not on the other day. So no, I haven't spoken. I've spoken to them over the phone, but they've asked for all the information and emails. Because it's just happened in the last 2 days, to be honest.
I understand.
Work.
So I don't think you can compel them legally. That, of course, doesn't mean that you can't get the job because you're the best person for the job. That would be great, and I hope that you are the best. But do you think you'll be the best job applicant for the job?
Well, considering I've been doing it for 20 years and it's exactly the same job.
Of course.
But more hours. And if I didn't get it, I would then have to train the new person, even though I'm not... Do you know what I mean? If I didn't get it, they would then ask me to train the next person.
That does sound a bit bonkers, doesn't it?
Yes, and that's what I find crazy. Yep. They're asking me to train the person up, but saying that they're better than me. Yes. That just seems madness as well.
Yep. Sorry, carry on.
I think the reason is purely for discrimination. I've had to take them to a tribunal in the past, and for a reasonable adjustment many years back, and I had to go all the way to the tribunal. And I just think, there is kind of an attitude of discrimination there, really.
Well, if they're consciously discriminating against you, if they're refusing to up your hours because you've taken them to the tribunal in the past for discrimination, you'd have something called a victimisation claim. Now, if it was some years ago, you might have some difficulty. I'm only sounding a note of realism here. You might have some difficulty persuading a judge that one's connected with the other, only because I know you are the most important person to you, but you're probably not the most important person, please don't take this the wrong way, to your manager's manager. And whilst your claim might have been a pain in the backside, how many years ago was it?
About 5 years ago.
Right, whilst it might have been a pain in the backside for them 5 years ago, that they'll have had 2,000 pains in the backside since then, and they've probably forgotten about you. I'm not saying they have. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that the passage of time points away from this being victimisation, because if they were going to try to do something to get you out, they would have done it by now.